We're shooting the Earn More, Keep More show right here in New York City. We're in Central Park right now, and we're introducing our next podcast guest.
I couldn't be more excited. I call this gentleman Dad. His name is Tom Love. He's creator of the Breakaway League for Financial Advisors, and he also created the explanation of services for anybody in sales that teaches you how to answer the question, what do you do for a living? Couldn't be more excited about this show. I cannot wait till this thing goes live. We have a great time.
Powerful stuff. Make sure you hit subscribe. From Goalpost Studios in downtown East Lansing, Michigan.
Hello and welcome to the Earn More, Keep More show,
where it's our job to give you tips, tricks, and strategies to earn more and keep more. I'm Dave McAndrews, and I believe that we should focus our marketing on messages that are all about our clients so that we can connect with them in a way that they can understand.
And I'm Matt Love, and I believe in being efficient with our companies so that we are able to keep more of what we make. What's up? Dave, what's up? How are you doing?
Doing really well, and excited to be here for the second episode in our New York City trip.
Downtown Manhattan.
That's right, top of the world. Well, obviously not quite the top, but certainly pretty high up here in a nice little 18th floor penthouse in the Maxwell. So can't complain too much about that. We lucked out, and the other thing that we lucked out is we were able to squeeze in the man, the myth, the legend, and your father, Tom Love.
Tom Love, special guest. Tom, how are you?
Very good. Very good.
Everybody at home is listening. That we do share a last name. We tried to book my mom for this, but she was busy. So we got Tom instead. Tom happened to be in town. Where are you speaking this weekend?
Right down the street.
He'll know as soon as he shows up.
Yeah, but
really, I will know more once I get there.
Who are the audience? Who's the audience?
I think there's 150 estate planning.
Well, everybody listening at home knows what we talk about, but we basically like to talk to business owners who realize there's two ways to increase your business. Either we try and have more revenue, increase sales, or we maintain our sales and then reduce the cost it takes to make those sales. Those are the only two ways we can grow a business. So when we interview guests, we like to talk about what is a problem that you've identified throughout your business that you have changed, turned it into a process, and the problem kind of goes away. So you've had how many years in the financial industry now?
This is my 41st year.
So 41 years in the financial industry doing pretty much everything, right? You had stockbroker license.
Right. I'm still a Series 7 stockbroker.
Okay. So what if I were to say, Tom, what do you do for a living?
Do you want to do that, or do you want to identify the problem that I had to come up with the answer to that question?
I want to know what you do for a living first. I want everybody listening to understand what you do, and then I think the second part of the conversation is going to be much clearer based on how you answer that question.
Well, over the last several years, I've never had as much fun as I'm having now, helping the average American tax-paying citizen the ability to understand how true wealth works, rather than simply chasing rates of returns or math calculations. We show the effect of everything that they're doing. And on average, what we're finding is the typical family is losing between $40,000 and $60,000 a year in wealth that they are misappropriating, either through not understanding how interest, fees, or taxes actually work. And usually we sit down with people and within 10 minutes find about $10,000 minimum that we could help people recapture. So if I'm working with somebody and they want to recapture some of that money, we can sure as heck do business together.
Wow. $10,000 in 10 minutes. That sounds like a pretty good ad right there. We can make you $10,000 in 10 minutes. I like that a lot.
And the way you answered it was very succinct and clear. So in our podcast here, could you identify one of the biggest problems that you found over your career that you identified and then turned into a process?
One of the biggest reasons why people in our industry fail is because they don't have enough people to talk to. And I would argue they have plenty of people to talk to, they just don't know what to say when they're with somebody. So for example, if I ask an advisor, how many people did you see last week? Normally they'll go to their appointment book, run through the pages and say, I saw 14 people. And I tell them, actually you saw 300 but had nothing to say to 286 of them. So what we try to do is say, look, rather than get 14 people that you're trying to convince to do something because you're trying to put a need in their eyes, how about having 284, 286 just conversations about how stuff works, what you're passionate about, what you believe, why you're able to help other people, and then work with the people who want to be helped, and disregard the ones that don't.
So the 300 people that they would see, and what you're referring to is everyday life. You go to the gas station, you go to the grocery store, you see people everywhere you go, but we just don't have anything to say.
I'll give you an example, Matt. When I was sitting in this wonderful seat, not just on the flight here this afternoon, I'm using my fountain pen and I'm drawing out what I'm going to be speaking about, and the attendant comes by and says, "That's beautiful handwriting. What do you do?" And I said, I teach people how to accumulate as much wealth as they want and make it off the radar screen of the IRS for income tax purposes using the current tax code. And she pulled up a seat and sat down and said, "What are you?" She gave me her name, and I told her the phone number. She's going to call the office and make an appointment. The point is, very few of us actually have taken the time, I believe, necessary to really look at why we do what we do. And as a result, we just sort of do things for other people's reasons. We're not unique. We sound the same. We look the same. We dress the same. And then we go out in the world and ask, why are we sounding alike? Well, we're all taught the same. And nobody teaches uniqueness anymore. So for 41 years, I have spent a career trying to take something as mundane as what it is that I do and make it exciting. And as a result of that, when I do now, I just learn how to talk to people.
And there's a switch in there. 41 years ago, you didn't have the clarity that you do now.
No.
So talk about that switch for a second.
There were three things that made it appropriate for me. Cut.
This is going to make the clip. This is going to make the clip. So they edit little clips.
I figured.
And so you're going to start talking about this, and they're going to, the three things. I'm one of them, right?
No. No.
Sorry, didn't make the list.
I'm
sure if there was a top 10 or 15, you might have made the list.
Thanks. You'd think the birth of his child would be on life's change.
But you were the second.
But weren't you a twin?
You
So,
were the first.
it's two at a time.
We had to split the victories all the time. It really
Exactly.
horrible.
Can I finish? Do you mind since I'm here? Can you just...
This is the top show. I forgot. Please.
All right. It was in 2013 that I decided to look inward to try instead of being good, I want to be great. And I realized the industry wasn't going to help make me great. It wasn't my boss that was going to help me make it great. It wasn't the company, and it sure as heck wasn't the government regulation. I decided to look inward myself at what I could do to become better. And there were three events that happened. One, I met my personal business coach. His name is Michael Burt, and he wrote a book called Person of Interest.
Yeah.
How to act different, look different, become a person of interest where they're chasing you rather than you're chasing them.
Yep.
I was introduced to Simon Sinek's video actually through you. The 18-minute and 4-second version, the TED Talk. Start with why.
Say that again. Sorry, because I interrupted you. But Simon Sinek's.
The Simon Sinek, the 18-minute, 4-second video on YouTube. It's actually a TED Talk. It's one of the most watched TED Talks in history.
Yeah.
And it's about everything you should do. Everything you do should begin with why you do what you do it. And yet, when somebody asks you what do, you begin with what. And you have to understand that the majority of the time somebody asks you what do you do, they're being polite and they're just filling a void space. It's a courteous question and they really don't want to hear the answer. So you have one opportunity to make a first impression. And if you begin with why you do what you do, then, and what I call a passion point, then you smile, you lean forward, you engage. Rather than talk at somebody, you're talking with them. And you lead with what you believe. And when you do, within 10 to 15 seconds, you can see if there's a body connection, if there's a reaction, or if there's repel. And if there's a repel, then I change the subject. I know within 15 to 20 seconds of meeting somebody, if I say something and it's not attractive to them, then I move on.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I would have spent months trying to.
So 2013, the pivotal year, person of interest. How do you have people attracted to you and your message?
Stop chasing,
rather than
become
chasing people.
Attractive.
And Simon's start with why teaches how to do that.
Correct.
And basically, the why is more important than what. And he
Absolutely.
says why you do what you do is more important than what you do. What you do proves what you believe. Why we do what we do allows other people to connect with what we do for a living.
And the third thing that to me it was the perfect trifecta was reading the book called The Challenger Sale. And this was written right after the debacle of 2008, 2009, the worst actual depression probably in most of our lifetimes. And what the book was basically showing is that there are 5 personality traits: the relationship builder, the hard worker, the lone wolf, the problem solver, and the challenger. And they wrote the book looking to confirm once again that the relationship builder, the guy who would sing Kumbaya to the crowd, was the number one personality trait that got people through this horrible time. Actually, of the 5 personality traits, they finished last. What I did not know is that long before that, I would start conversations by saying, I'm going to challenge what you think, I'm going to challenge what you do, and then I'm going to prove to you that what you believe is the exact opposite of what you're doing. I'll give you a quick example.
Please.
I was in California, which has the worst income tax in the country now. And
worst or highest?
The worst.
Are they synonymous? That's probably the same.
Yeah. The highest income tax
Yeah.
in the country. And I'm talking to the crowd, and I said, do you realize in the state of California that when you go to retire, you're paid 6th? 6th. 5 entities are going to stand in front of you, take your money, not sharing your cost, expense, asset management fee, commission, asset allocation, and they're going to stand in front of you and take your money first. And most people aren't even aware of that. So our industry has done a horrible job of just simply educating people. So we're no longer selling, we simply educate.
Beautiful. And I think you've mentioned this a long time ago too in the past, that I always use this line, what is the definition of a problem?
The definition of a problem is the difference between what your client has and what your client wants. You are not in the equation.
Isn't that liberating?
It's amazing, because at that point then you just get to gauge, first of all, do you see the problem? And if they say no, then I'm out of there. I can't make the problem.
So this pivotal year, 2013, you realized why you do what you do is more important. You learned how to package it with person of interest, and then you kind of had some confirmation with the challenger sale that you already were being the one that challenges conventional thinking. The relationship builder is a great thing, and I think the book, not to discredit the other 4 of that, what the book refers to, because you could be successful being the relationship builder,
Absolutely.
the lone wolf, but in through good times and bad, the challenger sale was the one. The challenger salesperson was the one that just always succeeded.
Correct.
And they did that because people want to know this problem. They want to know that if you have cancer, you're going to want to know about that.
Well, so true. I mean, think about this. If and this is, I'm going to save you buying the book. If you have not changed the way you address the art of selling, your client has changed the way they buy. Mm-hmm. And if you still go at them with the same old needs analysis and values and propositions, and you don't understand that they really want to hear a problem. So the gist of the book is, bring me a problem I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
But most important, bring the solution with you. And also proof that someone exactly like me, 2 miles down the road, that had the same problem, you fixed them and you can fix me. Don't come to me and tell me the world is a happy place and that my investments are great. If the world is not a good place, investments are going up and down like crazy, and bring me the truth.
Right.
And it's been very liberating.
I talked to an advisor earlier this week, and she was saying she's got a client with a relationship with a client, and the guy was worth a ton of money. Sound familiar? Ton of money, wants to get together and talk. They've had great 5-hour conversations. And, I just think I need to be more forceful. Oh, the language is so... I couldn't stand the language. I go, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? And they said, well, nothing, but I do want you to be telling me what I need to do different. And I thought, you just said nothing, but then you told me you wanted me to... Okay, there's a lot we need to work on, because forceful... Are you forceful anymore?
No.
Are you pushy? Tom, what if a prospect doesn't call you back? Do you write their name down every day? Do you call them? Do you email them? What do you do?
No. I get a kick out of this. Coach has a 10 or 7-step process for follow-up. He calls them the 7 touches.
Ooh.
And I say, if I touch a client 7 times, I'm going to prison. So I'm going to give you one. I'm going to share with you what I believe. I'm going to ask you if you believe as I do, and if you say no, we're done.
Yep.
We're done. Rather than try and find a trick in my bag that will make, here's one for you. Find your hot button.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's the 4 o'clock phone call.
How do you connect with the client?
I hate you. Why are you calling me? But because we took them.
Right.
We took them.
Right. And so what you're saying is, like, what's that? If you're talking to a prospect, what's their hot button? How can you mold to fix to meet their personality or whatever it is?
We've been taught. This is how I was taught. I'm supposed to recognize in 45 seconds if you're amiable, analytic, expressive, or driver. And then I'm supposed to change who I am to communicate with someone that I may not even like? And what if he says yes? Wonderful. I get an idiot for the rest of my life.
4 o'clock on a Friday, he's calling. Tell him I'm not here.
Well, think about that. This is what I've said all week. I spoke 6 times in California over the last 3 days. Okay, so we do get a phone call at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. We're about headed home, and the person we look at on caller ID and we go, oh crap, it's you, and we took them. And not only do we take them, here's how we got them to be convinced. We chased them. I'll do everything I can for you. Just, give me a chance. I'll bend over backwards. I'll do whatever you want. So here's what he'll do. He'll call on a Friday at 4 o'clock, tell you to go back to the office. I want this, 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 and this. I don't care if you're going to see your family. Do you think an advocate would ever call you at 4 o'clock on a Friday and demand you go back to work?
Horrible.
You took them.
Horrible.
You took them. So you have to now go out of your way to make that guy happy.
Yeah.
If we started the conversation with something as simple as, this is what I believe, this is why I believe it, do you believe as I do? And they say no, we're done. I have nothing. There's 16% of the American population that no matter what you're selling will buy from you. 16% of 330 million.
That's a lot.
A lot. There's no math involved.
That's a lot.
More than you can see. So rather than try and convince somebody for the wrong reason, begin with what you believe, begin with what you're passionate about, and just attract people who are like-minded.
And one of the elements, that law of attraction, we call it the Fonzie principle. So Arthur Fonzarelli, the Fonz, would walk into the diner, and he would go over the jukebox. He's not engaging anybody. He's doing his thing. But the ladies, they followed Fonzie. Those other guys that were chasing after the ladies, no attention given. But because of the fact that he knew who he was, had his own personality, his own thing, and had his own drivers, that attracted the people that around them. And that's kind of exactly what you're talking
Absolutely,
about.
but go back one more step.
Sure.
How did Fonzie get to be that way? Fonzie got that way for one reason, because of his confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem we have in selling is that nobody has confidence in what we do, because we do a little bit of everything and we're sort of mediocre at it all. When I was speaking in California, I said, how many people drove on an expressway to get here? Of course, everybody did, because there's nothing but expressways in California. And I said, how many times did you put the blinker on and change lanes? Why don't you pick a lane and own it? Stay in that lane and own it. Rather than, I heard this speaker, I'm gonna do what he does. I heard this speaker, I'm gonna do what he does. And that's the way I used to sell. I would listen to a speaker, I would figure out how they're unique, and then I would go to my client explaining why they should own it. And I made a good living doing that. But now I begin with why I do what I do. I explain how I do it unique than anybody else in the world, because what I do is irrelevant.
And let's go back to the passion points. I think that's a hugely important. Having passion and believing in what you do. Like, Fonzie would not be confident about motorcycles if he was not passionate about those motorcycles.
Right.
You have to have the love of the game in some way, shape, or variety in order to make that be expressive to the people that you're talking to. So what was that within the area of finance that you were able to finally say, okay, you know what, that's something that I can get up, give the message on, and be passionate about?
The truth. Just the truth. Every law, every regulation, everything coming out of Washington is having us focus on the wrong thing. Now, if I'm the United States government, it's brilliant, because if I could have you focus on the 0.5% of a sales charge that, quite honestly, I forgot to tell you about, and you could hold me 3 generations civilly liable, or can I talk about the fact 40 to 90% of your money will be confiscated when you go to retire? Now, if I'm the government, I don't want you to know that. Let's focus on the 0.5%, the 0.25%. Focus on that. And to me, the most important character in The Wizard of Oz was Toto. Toto was the one who pulled back the curtain, and everybody that was afraid of that big, ugly, pyrotechnic, bald-headed face on the wall was really nothing more than a guy behind a curtain playing with levers. And that's exactly how we feel. I feel that we're being treated. And once you know the truth about what it is that you're doing, most people are going to change what they're doing, because nobody is required by law to know the effect of anything we do. We are required by law to talk about the commissions, the sales charges, the policy fees, all the stuff that's irrelevant. Because when we look at spending what we have, that's when the government goes, thanks for being successful. Here's the bill. And I don't want to play that game. You wouldn't borrow money from me if I didn't tell you what the rate was.
No, sir.
But do you have an IRA?
I unfortunately do. I didn't. I didn't run into these guys until about 6 months ago. So we're working on some of that. But I really believe that your understanding of the truth and really having the type of information that other people maybe not, they haven't been told. I mean, when the game has been created in order to create a bunch of folks that get milked for their entire lives, that's the outcome that is wanted. You stand up there, you get milked, and that's okay with just about everybody involved, unless you're the one being milked.
So think about this, the word diversification. Financial advisors love that word. Diversify. If you have enough diversification, it's going to cost you $250,000 in Social Security. You're going to give back $250,000 of Social Security money, which, by the way, is not even in the formula when I talk about rate of return. Because if I can focus on 9 is better than 8 is better than 7 is better than 6, and the fact you're going to give back $272,000 of Social Security money, you're going to be chasing 9 is better than 8 is better than 7, and forget the fact $250,000 is going to be gone. What if you could keep the $250,000 because you understood how wealth works, not math? You could keep everything you want and get the $250,000 from Social Security. And the Social Security calculation you cannot even find in a tax return. It is buried so deeply, most taxpayers don't know that they're being raked over the coals. Again, diversion tactic. Focus on irrelevancy and we'll steal you blind. That's my belief, and I've had a lot of fun going around the country teaching people how the truth is.
Very interesting.
I love it because you're not changing anything, and I used the word earlier, liberation. For the first 5 years, and when I was doing the financial stuff, you're trying to chase and prove theories and pushing stuff down people's throats, economic principles that are not wrong. They're right principles. But we're teaching things to people that don't care. How many times, David, have you worked with a business owner that doesn't understand their audience?
Most of the time.
Isn't that so? I think the problem that Tom really did a good job of was identifying that it's not the advisor or the business owner trying to get a client. The advisor or the business owner doesn't know what they're out to do. And if it's out just to make money, you'll never succeed. Simon Sinek talks about this. You're not in it to make money.
This has nothing to do with you. And as soon as you can have your why statement for the benefit of somebody else, you'll make more money than you ever thought you could. So I'll give you an example. When Simon came out with this system, Start With Why, he realized he'd created a worldwide movement until a lot of people recognized, while I believe we should start with why, I don't have one. So in September of 2017, he comes out with a workbook, Find Your Why. And it's literally this simple. The formula for finding a why is, I want to, so that. The first part is what you want your legacy to be, what you believe your passion is, and the so that part is singular, articulate, and for the benefit of somebody else. So for example, if I told you, I want to make a lot of money because I want to buy a Rolls Royce. This is all self-serving.
Yes.
Sure.
It has nothing to do with you. But I can tell in 10 seconds of body language if your why is all about you or if your why is about somebody else.
You don't know what you don't know.
So if you can articulate eventually what you want to do and the impact it will have on somebody else that will put them in a position better than they were before, you've arrived. And you will find people who will knock on your door to help them get to where they want to be. I want to be known as a problem solver. I don't want to be known as a salesman. So if I can help you understand what a problem is, I can then offer a solution. But you have to acknowledge there's a problem. If not, I have nothing to sell.
In fact, I think what you're hitting on, this idea of going out and proving value for others, I think it goes deeper than business. I think it goes into who we are as individuals.
As a society,
human beings.
Yeah.
Exactly. People think that I want to make myself happy, and that's the lie. Is you can't make yourself happy. Happiness is a result of generally finding a way to connect with another human being and doing something for them. Yeah. And by being able to do that, they find fulfillment, they find that happiness that they're looking for. And it's in our DNA. It's in our wiring to look for that, to be able to connect with others in a meaningful way. Everybody is looking for meaning in their work, in their life, in their profession. And if we can find and help people find their meaning in their work, we'll find meaning in ours.
Absolutely. I agree.
I want to talk about the result of what your clarification in this journey going through in 2013 that you went through to identify yourself and who you are and your why. How did that translate then into business? Because I think the most exciting part of what we're doing right now is the what you refer to as the explanation of services. I think that's probably more fun than anything else we can do, because we're doing exactly what you said, Dave. We are teaching other advisors and professionals, regardless of the industry, how to become more successful. So when I asked you, what do you do for a living, you were fairly eager. You sat up and you were very eager to say that, and you had a very structured answer. Talk about that for a second.
Well, let's go through what is the problem with every sales rep in the country. There is nobody teaching this. So as a result, you're taught by corporate America through their legal compliance department how to sell their product their way. And then they say, go out and become unique. And it's really, really tough to do that. So when you're asked, what do you do for a living? Most people have not rehearsed. They haven't figured out what to say. So their eyes either closed trying to assess. Let's say you wore a suit, you were in flip-flops. And either way, as soon as I stop the look, as soon as the connection is gone, you're gone. Or if I look to the floor because I'm trying to think what to say, or if I look to the ceiling, either way, first impression is gone. Mm-hmm. And my coach taught me that a negative first impression takes 26 positive touches to reverse. And I will argue that someone that you've negatively impressed is not going to hang around you for 26 opportunities to be reversed. So you have to memorize your response. Memorizing the response. I mean, your brain is brilliant and smartphones make you stupid. That's a fact. So if I know exactly what I'm going to say, I can gauge the reaction of the person I'm talking to, because I know what's coming out of my mouth. And if I sense that there's no interest here, I move on. So the explanation of services is basically broken down into three parts. A statement of fact, which is begun with a passion statement, something that you're passionate about. If you have a job description with 15 different things, you're obviously not going to pick out the one that says, I take out the trash. But you sure as heck could begin with something that you're truly passionate about. Because when people start talking about things they're passionate about, they smile, they lean forward, they engage, they talk with, not at. So if I begin with a passion statement and then follow it up with an example of what I've done to benefit somebody else, and then I'm going to ask you a question, if I could do the same thing for you that I did for them, what's keeping us from doing business? I mean, it's pretty simple, three parts.
So you set up the structure of how to do it. It's a duplicatable process.
Extremely.
So regardless of the industry that you're in,
correct.
You could go, how would, I'm baiting you here because I already know the answer, but how would another professional learn how to do what you're talking about?
Well, it took me 6 months to learn my EOS, and I teach it. No, there was no book to go look at. So I was basically, it's trial and error.
EOS, you're talking about
of services.
explanation of services.
Yeah. So there wasn't any place to go to help me. I basically, this was trial and error. But regardless of what your career path is, there are things that you should be doing on a daily basis that you truly enjoy. And it's those types of things that I want to hear about. I don't want to hear what you do. I want to know why you do what you do. Mm-hmm. But in our society, that's never a question that's acceptable. Why are you doing this? Is not a question. It's what do you do? So we had one gentleman out in Colorado, and he was asked, what do you do? This was his response. And I don't care who you are, you're drawn into the rest of the story. He said, that's a good question, but I'm really better prepared to tell you why I do what I do than simply what it is that I do.
And it's a cultural thing, because in other parts of the world, the question is not what do you do, it's where do you live. It's a connection to a community and being connected to that community. Mm-hmm. So being able to get to something that gives connection rather than just this is how you put me in a box makes it very, very different.
And also remember that most of the time when somebody asks you what do you do, they don't want to hear the answer. It's to fill a void space. It's to be courteous. They don't care what you do. So you've got one opportunity. I'm flying down to Lauderdale. I'm doing a boot camp for some people. And the guy sitting next to me says, "What do you do for a living?" And I don't recommend anybody do this. I take my finger and I point to him and I go, "I teach people just like you how to accumulate as much wealth as you want and never file a tax return based on income." And he leans forward and goes, "What?" Now, that was an hour and a half phone call or an hour and a half flight that I could have spent trying to sell what I offer. And I just wanted to prove to myself, I wouldn't take the gentleman as a client. He followed me to baggage claim, begging for a business card. I wanted to prove that having something to say was more important than the sale. Because every business that's selling fails because they don't have enough people to talk to. That is not the reason. They don't know what to say to the people they see.
And
they have plenty of people to talk to.
And if they have something to say, but they don't care about it,
Yeah.
I mean, the passion point is incredibly important. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I always say that if I could be as excited about anything as she is excited about everything, I would be very well off.
Right.
Because having that excitement, having something to share with someone that you can give, and ultimately a connection, human to human connection, that's what it's all about.
And it's homework. I mean, you literally have to go through what you do on a daily basis and pick out things that are fun. I want to hear about the fun. I mean, if you come to me saying I'm bored stiff and I take data, run data through data, and look at the data.
Okay,
I'm
bye.
not interested. Yeah, really.
No, thank you. For people listening, the problem that Tom identified, regardless of your profession, you have no idea how to answer the question, what do you do for a living? So we've created this online training that teaches people how to answer the question, what do you do for a living? It's called Explanation of Services. You can go to our website, earnmorekeepmore.show, and we'll have a link to the online training course. We might come up with a discount code if somebody gets to the website through our show. Maybe we'll have like a 20% discount code if anybody wants to go through it. Personally, I believe that this is understanding my why and how to translate that into answering the question, what do you do for a living, is so liberating. It takes all the stress away. Life becomes better, and my income has gone through the roof because of it, and it has nothing to do with me learning anything else except what's inside.
And you're keeping it cool.
Keeping it cool.
Like the funds.
That's right.
So I'm going to leave with this. If you imagine an hourglass, the restricted part of the hourglass where all the grains of sand must travel through, think about life as all of these wonderful grains of sand of conversations that you hear that you're passionate about because you cannot duplicate because you don't have the same passion. And the reason why you don't is because they go through the narrow part of that hourglass. And for me, everything funnels through my why, my core belief. So all of these conversations I hear run through my core belief so that I can have eloquent conversations about what I believe. And everything I do relates to my core belief, my why. And if you don't have a why, it is so important that you find one, because life is complicated. You're constantly fighting, you're chasing, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know the effectiveness of what you have, and it gets to be frustrating. I've never had more fun than I'm having right now, choosing who I want to work with. I'm the buyer in the relationship. I'm not selling anything anymore.
I love this. Again, go to the website, earnmorekeepmore.show. We'll have links to how to do the online training with Tom. It's on your schedule. If you've never done online training, it's awesome. It's all interactive. People can go on there and click. You go on there and click. You click your answers. You have a package at the end. You will be able to design your own explanation of services for your own industry based on your own why, so that when you talk to people, you're the buyer, not the seller.
Here's the takeaway.
You have to know what it is. You have to be able to eloquently say it in a way that has passion, is able to connect with another person, and get them to understand exactly what you do. And if they turn off, if they're not interested, you don't have to chase. It saves an immense amount of time.
My job is not to convince anymore. I stop chasing and I stop proving.
It's a beautiful thing.
Awesome.
It is.
All right, thank you for listening, everybody. Check out the website, earnmorekeepmore.show. Tom, thanks for being a fun guest.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Bye now.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Drop the mic.
Well, thank you for listening to the earnmorekeepmore.show. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button below so that you can make sure you're up to date on all the new episodes. And if you want to be a guest, we would love to hear from you. On our website, we have an easy downloadable form where you can put in your information and share with us your experience of how you've turned a problem into a process.
We are all about our listeners, and we want to make sure that our listeners are finding a place, and we are most excited for you guys to share with us how you are earning more and keeping more. We look forward to hearing from you.
This has been a Goalpost production.
That's it for us. We are your hosts, Dave McAndrews and Matt Love. Our executive producer and creative guru is Jennifer McKinstry. Our social media director is Mark Farnes. And a very special thank you to Lansing's own Jose Moore for providing the music.
Thanks for listening.